So welcome to the Advanced Career Management Leadership Workshop. I'm Patty Soderin, and with Sonia Gultz, I'm coordinating this workshop, and Brad Wells is here from our advanced office as well. And we have a panel that that we'll introduce in a moment. First, let me tell you what the agenda is for today. We'll do a little bit of an overview about leadership issues for mid-career faculty. Then we have a distinguished panel of people who have followed leadership paths. We've asked them to share their experiences with you. We'll have a little bit of a breakout activity and some homework, and then some wrap-up questions. So we should be finished by 3 o'clock. I want to just mention the concept of intersectionality. It's built into the survey that you took, the previous survey for the workshop. The idea of intersectionality is that we all have various sorts of identities, and these are not just additive. It's not just that you're in STEM and you're a parent. These are multiplicative. You know, the idea that at times being, you know, in a STEM field, being a parent, having some mobility issues, that these are compounded. And so we want to introduce this idea of intersectionality. And we asked you about how various roles, functions, identities in your life might impact your experience as a mid-career faculty member. And so that's where we're coming from on this in terms of intersectionality. So just wanted to mention, because some people have had some questions about what is it that we mean by that. But I want to talk just for a second here about leadership path issues. So this is a workshop on leadership and on opportunities and ambitions to move into leadership directions. When people get tenure, it's a moment to reflect on what you want to do with your career. And for many people, going into some sort of leadership is attractive. There are some issues with moving into leadership. One of them is just the role definitions, how you define leadership and how leadership gets defined by the institutions and offices that have leadership. We often define these in fairly traditional or conventional ways that may or may not advantage you in following a leadership path. And we find that many times the way you yourself define or understand the qualities or qualifications of leadership can hold you back and be inhibiting factors. So we want to talk about that a little bit. Accumulation of disadvantage, of course, is something that you've learned about in the diversity literacy workshop. But the accumulation of disadvantage, the ways in which particular disadvantages compound over time, is also, we're coming to find, an intersectional issue. That accumulation of disadvantages is not just, oh, well, sometimes the fact that I'm a woman in STEM is an issue. It gets compounded by some of these other relationships and identities. So accumulation of disadvantage is an intersectional issue. And finally, institutional merit and qualification criteria. And of course, we've all talked about implicit bias and how that's part of the way in which some of these processes happen, but also the way in which we're changing some of these criteria or not changing some of these criteria, and how that matters to you when you're trying to move into a leadership position. Now, the good news is that there are ways in which our conventional, traditional leadership roles and pathways are opening up. And I wanted to mention something that Alec Galway from University of Michigan, the engineering school there, wrote in an op-ed in May of this year in the Chronicle of Higher Education, that at the University of Michigan, they now have 13 women out of 25 of the top faculty leadership roles. And he was very proud of this, and, you know, was talking about how important this is, because when you have people in these kinds of roles, they take different perspectives on things. For example, they don't just dismiss some of the concerns people might have, women might have, about moving into leadership roles. They take those seriously. And I thought, well, it might be interesting to see how we're doing at Michigan Tech. So on the President's Council, and that's the CFO, legal counsel, these people, we have 6 women and 4 men. 4 of 7 deans are women, and this includes 2 of the STEM colleges where our deans are women, as well as the graduate school. 5 of 20, yeah, this is where we're not so good. 5 of 21 department chairs are held by women. 1 of 9 in the College of Engineering. So there's a little ambition for you. 3 of 11 of the CSA, College of Science and Arts chairs are women. And I'm one of them this year. I'm an interim, by the way. So that's just, you know, for this year. And 1 of 1 in the College of in Computing is a woman. And then I thought it was worth mentioning that the Tech Forward initiatives, those were spearheaded by women as well. So how does tech rank? The fact that we have women in upper administration and leadership positions is encouraging. But I want to mention as well, and we'll talk about this also, that there are lots of leadership opportunities, lots of ways of developing experience that matter in terms of moving ahead in leadership or administrative positions. So we often think about this academic administration pathway, right? Chair to dean to, you know, assistant and provost. That's one pathway, but there are also a lot of professional leadership opportunities that we'd like you to start thinking about or think about today in terms of what are those opportunities for you and how can you move into those opportunities? What are the qualifications? What, you know, in what ways can they open up? But other kinds of administrative positions. For example, national or international boards, national or international review boards, being an officer in a community organization or a director for a campus initiative. These are also leadership experiences. They can give you skills and qualifications. So I want you to think more broadly about leadership opportunities today. And with that, I'd like to introduce our panel. And if we can have the panelists come up. We have Pushpa Murthy from the graduate school, Linda Ott, the one chair in the College of Computing, and Audra Morse, our one College of Engineering chair. So we're really pleased to have you here, and thank you so very much for joining us today. Okay, the questions, we did ask them a few questions to think about as they share their experiences with you. What is your story of the path to leadership roles that you have experienced? How did you manage leadership responsibilities in mid-career and at the same time manage to meet teaching and research expectations? What have been some major obstacles, but also what have been some major resources on your leadership path? And what resources and opportunities should someone who's looking for a leadership path in mid-career think about checking into or taking advantage of? So some questions we've asked you to think about, and with that, I'd like to turn it over to our panel. Thank you.
Okay. I think looking for the dean should go first. Yes, we do.
Like good leaders do their conferring.
So Harry talked about the 4 main questions, and they all had multiple sub-questions underneath. Yeah, so I'll try to go down this quickly, but should you want to jump in when I'm talking about it, or when you finish mine and then you have to?
Why don't you talk, and if we feel like jumping in, we will.
Please jump in. Okay, all right. So what's your story for the path to leadership that roles that you have experienced? Have you followed a traditional path to leadership? I guess yes. I was department chair, but really even before the department chair, I was director of the Graduate Programs Committee, Undergraduate Programs Committee, Promotion and Tenure in the department, a number of other positions where you had to assume leadership. And and as many of you know, you've also been on panel discussions at NSF, NIH, and other places like that. Maybe in publications, your professional publications. So I thought that all of those helped me find my voice and my vision, and in that sense, prepared me in different ways to be chair. I don't think I would say I followed traditional, because I went to industry and then I said, this is not for me. Then I came to university, then I was chair for a term and I said enough and I stepped out. I didn't do it for a second term. And then I went to NSF, came back, and then I felt I was ready, I wanted to be dean of grad school. So I guess I was in it. That's what I want to say on that, on the path. So when you say, when it says prepare for opportunities, all of those positions, leadership positions, help clarify in my mind what the important issues were to me. And I think that was all useful when I finally stepped into the chair position. And people told me when I became chair, colleagues I had known for good 10, 12 years, that Pushpa, as soon as you walk in through that office, your relationship with all of us changes. And I said, I see Patty shaking her head. And I said, I know you all for, good 10, 12, 15 years. And so you all know me, so nothing should change, right? No, it totally changes. As soon as you're deciding people's teaching load, conferences they go to, GTA positions, all of those things, it changes. So I guess I wasn't quite prepared for how much those things would change. What paths mostly planned did you take advantage of opportunities? Yeah, as I said, I think those are all opportunities. I think network is very important in almost all cases. Somebody nominated me for different positions I have been at. If I had to fill it out myself, I don't know that I would have taken the plunge. In all cases, someone else said something, so I said okay. But I also found when I was at NSF, this is what the Council of Grad School person said, that if you want to be dean, please let me know, and I will nominate you for this position. That's what I mean by networking, and that someone else nominating you always has a bigger impact, especially somebody in a powerful position than you nominating yourself. So something to keep in mind. What leadership opportunities are you glad you said no to? And which one do you wish you had pursued more? I said no to be a chair for at least 5-6 years before I became chair. So I said no a number of times before I became chair. I think that was the right thing for me at that time. I really wanted to be full professor before I became chair. That was important to me because I felt that if I became chair without being a full professor, it would slow down that step, and it might even take me off track, and I really didn't want to do that. So that was a good thing for me. I said no to the second term, and I'm quite happy about that as well. I just felt I needed to step out at that time. I had a number of grad students who were finishing up, and I felt I really couldn't be chair, as well as have like 5 people in my group finishing up their PhD and writing papers at the same time. So it was a good move for me. Some of the less traditional, I wish I had applied to the NSF position earlier, because it really opened up my horizons. Anybody who's gone as a rotator program director will say that it was just quite an eye-opening experience, and you got a sense of what was happening nationwide that you don't get from being here. I know not everybody can do that because of family obligations or other things, but for me that was very important, and it gave me a different level of confidence and familiarity with what other universities are doing, especially in grad education. In fact, that's when I realized that my passion was grad education. Although I had done undergrad and grad both, really what I found really interesting was the grad education bit of it. So, so I'm going to stop there. I've talked a lot. That brings me to the end of one.
Okay. All right. So I may jump in then and just say that something I always tell my students is that leadership is a behavior. It's not a title. And so when they're undergrads and they're working to build their resume, and which is something I of course encourage them to do, because they need to differentiate themselves from their colleagues so they can get the job that they want or the career that they want, I tell them that. And so I think of the opportunities is maybe volunteering. You give a little bit of yourself. It's something that is important to you. So that's what has ever motivated me. And so if I think back to how I got started, it was I saw a need, fill a need. And if you've seen the movie Robots, that was my attitude, is like, saw a need, fill a need, and how can I help? And a lot of times it was giving my time to help the department, helping prospective students. It didn't matter. But over time, because you're present, you're involved, you know what's going on. And so that really helped. And then I had a track record, and it was clear it was out of passion, it was out of heart, it was out of caring. And that was really, I think, what ended up becoming a differentiator when I was asked to be associate dean at the institution that I was at. And so I think maybe that keeping in mind that if you lead wherever you're at, and that can be your research projects, right? It doesn't have to be an administrative. Maybe it is a chair of a committee in the department. Those are all opportunities to practice the skills of what we tell our students, right? Working with others, playing collaboratively, and moving the entity forward. So I think, though, to be able to have had those experiences, it was generally because I said, sure, I'll try that. I'm kind of curious. I don't know if I'll be good at it. I'm willing to fail. I'll try not to take you all down with me, but I will do the best that I can. And I'll figure out if I have the right stuff or not along the way. And I always put effort into it. And so I think leadership then really is, and when I think about all the questions that Pushpa went through, it was really about when I was doing something, trying to demonstrate vision, planning, and organization, whether, again, that was a committee that I was serving on, not even chairing, making others look good, that was okay with me, because at the end, who was winning? The institution was winning. My students were winning. You know, that's really who it was all about. I don't know about, and I would say, okay, so I may answer this one. So yes, there were some experiences in the institution, again, just serving wherever I was. When given the opportunity to serve the institution, I did step up. Sometimes I wasn't in the room when I was voluntold what to do, and that's okay too, because I learned something. But part of what you learn along the way is what you can do, what you're good at, what motivates you. Like Pushpa said, that's how she found her graduate. She was passionate about graduate education. You also figure out what you're not passionate about and where you don't want to give your time, but you may not know until you do it. So some